This is diversity and collaboration, a little different talk than probably what you're used to. So let's get started. I'm Tameika Reed, founder of Women in Linux. I founded Women in Linux because I've been doing this now for 17 years. And me and a co-founder here were sitting on the sofa, and I was like, you know what? I've never ever seen any other black women in Linux. So we started it to get more black women into Linux, and it has morphed to get more women, more men of color, minorities, anybody who will listen in tech. So that's kind of like where we're at now. So today the talk is about diversity and collaboration, but not diversity as you think about it, but diversity in education. So when you look up diversity on Webster or dictionary.com, it often says an inclusion of individuals representing more than one nationality. Today we're going to say we want to include more diversity in education, so different formats of how you educate people, how you get information out to people, and who you're getting information out to. Collaboration. Well, we just saw, if you were here earlier, you saw GitHub. We're in an open source conference, so we want to talk about collaboration on all levels. We're talking about collaboration with students, teachers, parents. We want to talk about collaboration even down to the fact of just in your community and building around your community. So here's some facts, and this comes from the U.S. Department of Labor. Fact, computer system analysts, by 2024, the growth in that market will be 21%. And as you can see, the same thing for software developers and information security. But while you're here today to listen to this talk is more about how do you get a student who's in school, say they're getting their degree in computer science or computer engineering, to understand what a site reliability engineer is. If you go look online and you look up the facts of what those jobs entail, and you look at and do a correspondence of what you see online in terms of or in school, and when you go to school, they don't line up. Some things add up and some things don't. So here's what we're going to discuss today. I hope you can see this. It's maybe a little small, but it's my mind map of diversity and collaboration and building a community. So at the top, you'll see we're going to discuss mentoring, attendee ownership, meetups. It's actually colleges and partnerships, and also mobile conferences, pop-up shops, and also a digital guidance counselor. If you were in school like I was in high school and you had a guidance counselor and you ask a guidance counselor today, what does an automation engineer does? They probably won't know. So we need to do something about that. We need to get the information down to a lower level. And a lower level can also be just as easy as, someone, just a wild hair here, making a VR game of what an automation engineer does. Just throwing that out there for someone. All right, collaboration from a 360 view. All right, when we talk about collaboration, we want to create skilled workers that can actually, we can reinforce those concepts of what they're learning and also where they're learning. Also, define a path. If you look at, if you ever looked at, and I do this often, if you look up a job, or your job today, of what you do today, and you had to tell someone how you got to that job, could you fully tell them, go to school, do X, do Y, and do Z, and you'll end up here? If you can't do that, then that's something we need to work on, and I'm willing to work with you. Exposure. There's a difference between access and there's a difference between exposure. Access is, I have the internet and I can look up anything I want to, right? But if I've never been exposed to the knowledge, what difference does it make? I just have access to a lot of information. Meetups is a great way to start, all right? So what I propose is, if we're going to have all these meetups, we need to have meetups where the schools and the employers and the people and the students can collab together. Oftentimes, when we're having meetups, we have meetups in, say, different locations at different times. We're often lost. We can't get to the meetup. The meetups are not recorded. So I'm proposing that employers actually start sponsoring meetups at a high school level, where you can actually bring people in from your actual job or your actual company, and actually go on site with the high school kids. And you can even go as down as to grade school if you had to, because now you're giving them somebody who they can see, they can at least understand, and have something tangible to work towards. Like I said before, your meetups are often in different locations. They're often at the same time. And also, you also don't even know that you might. I do it often. I sign up for one meetup here, and then there's another meetup at another time, and I want to know all that information. So how can I ensure that I know all this information, or at least get access to that information? So I propose virtual meetups. You'll see virtual meetups out there right now. A good example of that would be Rancher. Rancher records their meetups, and they actually have them online where you can actually go back and look over them over time. I do it with Women in Linux. OpenEdX does it as well too, and OpenStack does it as well too. And even taking that one step further, you can actually do a collaboration with your meetups. So I do a lot of collaboration with a lot of different meetups locally in my area in Tampa, where we'll get together and instead of everyone meeting up in person, we'll actually do virtual meetups. So that way, if somebody who's driving in traffic and they can't make it, they can at least get a chance to go back and watch the recording, or they can make it wherever they're at. They can go to stop at Starbucks. And this opens it up, too, for those students as well, too. You can invite students. Of course, there may be some legality behind that in terms of their age or so forth, but those are things that you wouldn't have to worry about, because now you're not introducing a minor to an adult. You're all virtual now. So just some things that you can think about and also include when you're thinking about doing diversity in education and collaboration. So if we ever looked at colleges and what they offer and some of the things, different schools do different things. So there's the 2-year plan and the 4-year plan. I talked to Tammy Berto over at Dropbox, and they have an actual partnership with a nonprofit. So what happens with that nonprofit is you go in and say, like, you have the boot camps. You go in for free, and what happens is after you finish that training, you join an apprenticeship program with Dropbox. But you also sign up to pay them the school back in which you learn. So now you have people coming in, they're getting skills, they're working as well too, and they're also being able to pay back instead of having that upfront cost. So that's another way when we're talking about collaboration. That's diversity and that's collaboration. I also propose that for 2-year colleges as well too. 2-year colleges is a great way to start. We can revamp the whole 2-year college issue that we have in terms of, well, I shouldn't say issue, I should say it's a 4-year issue. Because by the time you try to implement something in a 4-year college, we've moved on to the next thing. So why not start at a 2-year college? They're already accredited. We can already go in and help solve some of their issues because they have a little bit more leniency. So instead of just going to a 2-year college, you can go to a 2-year college and create something in parallel. Partner up with a nonprofit. Partner up with someone who's willing to teach. At least you have an idea of like, okay, I'm in this 2-year program. I'm learning, say, some 2-year programs teach you physics and calculus, but when I need for you to go and learn Ansible, those two don't even match up. So if you can show where a student can say, okay, well, I'm learning here, but in parallel, I also learned over here, you can then say, okay, well, if I go to a 4-year college, I have a better idea of what I want to learn, and I have a better idea of where I can be, say, in 4 years or 5 years, however long it takes you to finish. But at least you have an idea, and 2, you have skills, so if you can't get a scholarship, you can at least pay for your own college because now you have skills to help you go to college for those 4 years. So mobile conferences. I also propose, I love O'Reilly, I love DARPACon, I love all those particular conferences, but I also see a problem with it as well too. And one of those problems is cost. So if you're here on a gold, bronze, whatever you paid, $1,500, $2,500, $3,600, awesome. But I also propose having what I call pop-up shops. You know, like we used to do flash mobs. Well, we can do the same thing with tech. We can have a tech pop-up shop. You know, you can rent a Sprinter and some food trucks and have them come out somewhere and say, for today, we're just gonna learn about what Docker is, just some basic concepts. Today we're gonna learn about just what a kernel is and how to recompile a kernel. But those things are free. You know, all you need is someone just maybe to sponsor a hot dog or someone to sponsor the food, but it's something that you can easily set up and something that you can easily do within the community that you're in. That doesn't take a lot of money, it just takes a tweet. So just think of something to think about when you're thinking about combining things. Also, when you're thinking about high school, I often get a lot of high school students. I even have my nephew who's gone to school for all his life playing football. And then he turns around, he's got good grades, he's got scholarships to go to whatever college he wants to go to, but he's like, I don't want to play football. So he said, I don't want to go to college. So I said, well, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I want to go do something like real estate or tech, but I don't want to go to college for that. I don't want to play football and go. So what is he in turn supposed to do? So this is where you can go back to the high school level and you can start introducing some of these things like a conference for high school kids. It would really be easy to have like a 2-day conference like here where you invited high school kids to do just a tutorial on the basics, where they spend, like you move around in class, you spend an hour or two just learning about what is DevOps. What does it take for me to even write a tech book? You know, what is documentation? Really simple things that you can show a student or a grade school student in terms of how to move into tech. Another option is what I call my favorite is we often have these hackathons and where kids learn about creating an MVP or so forth, but I propose a DevOps hackathon where kids are actually learning how to say, okay, I'm gonna be on a team that's a database. I'm gonna be on a team that's doing continuous integration. I'm gonna find out what the basics is of Bash and Python. I'm gonna learn how to use the command line, and then come together at the end of that actual weekend or however long you decide to do it, you come together and just actually show what you learned. So that way that kid gets exposure to just the different variety of fields that they can go to in tech, and then make an informed decision on whether or not they want to continue going into tech under computer science, or, hey, I actually want to, be an automation engineer, or I want to go into sports analytics. Those are just different fields that you can go into. Then also looking at Pluralsight and CBT Nuggets and Udacity and Khan Academy. Right now, they're really tailored towards, Khan Academy not so much, but really tailored towards people who are already in the industry, actual jobs with continuous education and so forth. But how simple would it be just to say, okay, for a weekend with Pluralsight, we're gonna give you guys some basics on, hey, let's try this, and maybe even have a teacher or someone who's volunteering or wants to help out actually show how to use those platforms and actually show how to understand some of the concepts in those classes. Mentoring, this is my favorite. Oftentimes I get asked, well, you're in tech, who was your mentor? Guess what? Me. I was my mentor. I never had a mentor. Do I want a mentor? Sure. But the number one question is how do you find a mentor? How do you find a mentor in tech that looks like you? And how do you find a mentor in tech that actually has time for you? So I've done a number of podcasts with mentoring and with various people from Meetup.com and from actual Google. And one of the number one things that we often talk about is be uncomfortable. Put yourself in a situation where you're always uncomfortable, because when you're uncomfortable, you'll learn and work to get comfortable. When you're always going to the same place and you're doing the same thing over and over again, you never learn. You just relearn the same thing over and over. But be uncomfortable. Be able to walk into a place and say, hey, I know you don't know me and I don't know you, but these next 5 minutes, we're gonna work to get to know each other. But be uncomfortable and embrace that, embrace it. So I often also tell people, learn how to fish. You want to teach people to the point where they can fish for themselves. I mean, let's think about it. I started in 2000. YouTube didn't come out to 2005. I was making my own documentation. I was putting the own hooks on my own lines and going out fishing. I was learning things and concepts on my own, but at the same token, you want to teach people how to fish and teach people how to search. That's the number one thing if you're ever in tech or whatever it is that you do, is knowing how to search. Learning how to do an and or a double quote or a single tick or what have you. Learning how to search is important, and understanding how to navigate. When you're often in tech, it's so much out there to learn and to know. Like I just discovered when I went to the big data conference, there was a research data scientist. I was like, what in the world is a research data scientist? So I sat down and I went and looked and explored what a research data scientist was. Now ask me to regurgitate that same topic or that same path to a student who's in college doing computer science, something that they never heard of. So understanding how to navigate, understanding how to search is very important. And another thing that I often get asked as I go along is, a lot of people say, I don't want to learn anything if it's not going to help me in the end. And I always say that everything helps you, but I come from the mindset of I'm fishing on my own. They're coming from the mindset of, okay, I fished, what is this going to do for me? You're telling me to go learn Bash, they're telling me to go learn Node.js. You're telling me to go over here and learn Perl, no one's using that. You're telling me to go learn COBOL, no one using that, but they actually are. There's still jobs out there for COBOL, actually, and they're paying like $180 if you want to know. But, however, with that being said, I think for the younger generation, and when I say this, I don't really mean the younger generation excluded. I often get women who actually left the job force and went back, and now coming back because they've raised their kids to their school age, and now they're coming back into the job field. And so they're looking for the skills that they had before and the skills they've acquired by managing little people, and then coming back into the field and saying, hey, what can I do? So I understand if I'm 35 to 40, you teaching me Perl, that ain't gonna happen. So I need something that's gonna help me get to where I need to be in a short amount of time. So that's part of that focused learning sessions. I really focus on those learning sessions, really focus on giving them something that's really tangible to obtain, and also showing how this fits into the actual tech field. So I also looked at the digital guidance counselor. This is my favorite topic. This is like my number one. All right, so with the digital guidance counselor, often what you find is if you were like me and went to high school, my teacher was like, not my teacher, but my digital guidance counselor was like, oh, you want to be a computer engineer? She was like, I really don't think that's for you. Why don't you try this? But that comes with her saying that because she didn't know either. And also, she had never seen anyone in the field that looked like me either. That's okay, because I made it, right? So with that being said, often what I see is kids are picking the wrong careers. They're also not understanding tech is in everything and is everywhere. when you start thinking about your phone, your watch, even down now we're down to wearables, your headphones and so forth. Tech is in everything, and showing how tech is in everything is very important, and showing how to navigate that. Also, what I've learned is we often are focused on the startup world. We're focused on everyone going out being an MVP, but we're not focused on the tech behind that to build that startup or you to have that MVP. So we need to focus more on that when we do have our hackathons or our entrepreneur weekend, show both sides. Let someone pick what they feel they would choose, not just, hey, you should be a CEO, but how about you be a CTO? They get paid. I know a couple of them. All right, and the last thing I want to say is, with the Digital Guidance Council, what it does is it's an actual tool that empowers the student, it empowers the teacher, and it also empowers the parent. Oftentimes, the parent who may be in a field, say, I'm doing nursing, but your child wants to go into game development. How do you make that leap for them to both understand where they're not arguing? I was at Alamo Rental Car in Atlanta, and the young lady that was checking me out on my car, she was like, yeah, my daughter's into gaming, and I told her to put it down. I was like, what is she? I was like, does she get on Twitch? She's like, yeah, she's on Twitch. She got a character and everything. I was like, let her game. I was like, because they're giving out gaming scholarships to Brown University, RPI, NYU, and they're starting at 15 years old for those scholarships, and they're also full rides. So if she's 13, let her game till she get a scholarship. So focused on everyone else. Now let's change the tone and focus on the person, the attendee or the student. That's really what the heart of the matter is. The heart of the matter is you just gotta show up. Like, if you don't show up, guess what? You won't win. So I want you to walk away. I want you to win. I want you to be engaged. So how do you keep the student engaged? But the student also has to engage themselves. Research. It goes back to that number one topic, knowing how to fish, knowing how to research, knowing how to find the answers for yourself. And there are no dumb questions. Oftentimes, people just don't ask the questions because they feel like it is a dumb question or they should know it. And we can't know everything, but we can at least look it up, and we can ask the right questions, and we can actually engage. And understanding your network is not your net worth. When you understand how to network, who to network, where to show up at, who to talk to, what questions to ask, that's very, very valuable. It's okay to go out and say, okay, I bought my $500 Jordans. That's cute, right? But it's even better if you say, Jordan actually sent me a pair of $500 Jordans. So understanding your network. At the end, I want everybody to say, let's collaborate and change this. These are just some minor and small things that you can do in your community. These are things that if you feel like this was too much to do by yourself, come and join me. And in the end, let's just do it. Closing remarks here. I want you to collaborate with a purpose. Collaborate out of necessity. We're at the juncture now where we don't have time to figure out whether or not we could do it or couldn't do it. Just do it. You can learn something from everybody. If you're in this room today, before you walk out of here, at least talk to the person next to you, at least talk to the person over here, at least network. Change your view. Be uncomfortable. It's okay for you to walk in the same circles because they're your friends, but you may gain a new friend if you just go off over just one little row over. That person may be just a friend. That person may be an employer. That person may help you start your startup. Start small. Grow online. Build a community. Join a community. We welcome you all. And last thing, get the kids involved. It doesn't all have to be coding. There's so many other things we can teach kids. Just remember, when you're looking at tech and you're talking about coding, it's just a pie. And you take that and you sliver that out, and that's coding. Now think about the rest of that pie. If you just live in that sliver, shame on you. If you're only delivering that sliver, shame on you, because tech is in everything. And remember, collaborate out of necessity. I left a slide in here for resources as well. I can share that with you, but that's it. Any questions? Yes.
Where can we get your slides?
You can get my, I can email them to you. And I think O'Reilly gets them, but I can most definitely email them to you.
Put up your contact slide.
They said earlier in the week that all the slides are going to be at OSCON.org/slides.
Oh, yeah, I gotta look over here, huh?
I haven't checked it yet. That's
There you go. There you go. And the only one thing I did leave out is, so when I talked about partnerships, there's a partnership with, that I really am a fan of. It was with Georgia State and State Farm in Atlanta. And it's a $20 million partnership. And in that partnership, $5 million goes to nonprofits, and $15 million goes to the 2-year programs in Georgia. It's 5 of them out of Georgia perimeter. And what they're doing is they're actually going back in and they're revamping those schools and changing them to data sciences. But they're partnering up with nonprofits to help with that transition because they already have their curriculum. So that's that parallel motion that I talk about. So another partnership is the partnership with IBM and North Carolina A&T. That was $7.5 million with that partnership. With that partnership, mainframe isn't dead. So you still have the baby boomers that are leaving and retiring, but someone has to run that mainframe or learn that mainframe. So again, there's another parallel motion there. IBM already has a curriculum. North Carolina A&T already has a curriculum, but they're learning in parallel. Another partnership that I like too is a partnership that Google did over in Oakland. I think it's called Google Next Lab. Well, what they're doing is they're teaching kids for free, but what they're also doing is they're taking parts like taking a cell phone and breaking it apart where the kids are learning hands-on, but they're learning hands-on and also learning about tech. So they also introduce like tech, DevOps, and coding, and not just sitting them down in front of a computer and using Scratch or what have you, but they're also engaging the mind of the student. So I like those partnerships, and I wish we could see more of those partnerships, in particular at the 2-year college level, because they're already there. And when you can't afford to go to a major college, and you can go to a 2-year college, but it doesn't even prepare you to get out to do anything, and you still got to go to a 4-year college, and you don't have any money, I would love to see partnerships at a 2-year college where the tracks are parallel, where you can actually start learning things, learning some basics of DevOps. It doesn't take much to learn Ansible. It doesn't take much to learn anything else. I would love to see those.
So you know, you're sort of, talking about mentorship and virtual meetups. Do you know any good sort of online bridges for mentorship? Sort of like if you were interested in it and you sort of meet people sort of online and work with them online.
Yeah, so I looked around for that, right? So there's, of course, mentoring.com. And I've been to like at least 5 hackathons, and every kid comes out of these hackathons wanting to build a mentorship app. So my answer is gonna be no for that, right? Because most of the time they're like, well, the mentors are not available. They don't understand what we're going through. They can't help us out on this. The times are not great. So that's why I kind of go back to community building, where you do have those meetups that can act as like a bridge to mentorship. they provide that one-on-one that kid may need, or just even an adult. Because I get a lot of women that want to go back into the work industry and they don't know how. So that they need mentorship as well too. They need the same it's like almost like they need the same fundamentals as the student going in, right? Because they're starting over. If you spent 5 years outside of tech, it's over. It's a wrap. You got to start all over again, or at least be able, quick learner, to build up on what you already knew.
So all of us in the room are really, really busy people. We definitely want to be mentors. Do you have any suggestions on how we can maximize our mentorship with the time that we do have?
So that kind of goes into Lynn Langett and which is a podcast we did. Shout out to podcast Women in Linux. But in that, what she was saying was kind of come with your questions already. Maybe carve out some time and teach in a group. Like if you have a group of people that want to be mentored, or you know of a group of people that want to be mentored, go as a group. That way you can kind of kill, 2 birds with 1 stone. But I also will want to add, in the days of Slack, you can also mentor in Slack, because now you got video and so forth, so you can actually kind of build your community around Slack and actually start mentoring in there as well too. I know anybody who's in my Slack, they're like, oh my God, you post all the time. I was like, you can't never say you didn't know. All right, you can't never say you walked out of here that you didn't know, because I'm gonna drop many links on you. Anybody else? Well, I think that's it. Thank you for attending. Thank you for listening.